back to you in a different way when you go back to your early stuff?
I think we touched upon that in the film. It kind of made us wonder what the hell we were thinking. And it was infinitely harder to do those songs now than it was to do them then.
Younger, better. Of the differences, I think the biggest difference between the way they sounded in this film and the way they sounded back in the mid-70s was Jim Mothersbaugh's drums were these practice drum heads that he used acoustic guitar pickups that he'd run into fuzz tones and wah-wahs, and so the drums sounded quite different. So this show here made it sound more like real songs, I thought. That was the biggest difference. And it had a real PA.
It was just odd coming face to face with your past like that. And it was an idea that Bob Casale had, and then we felt compelled to follow it through once he was gone. So the film confounded expectations and brought us back full circle, because everybody thinks of Devo as, you know, a big show and lots of media and video walls and props and slickness, and we took it
sexiness.
Yeah. And we wanted to go all the way back to that basement feeling of pure, naked creativity.
As far as the power of the band, I mean, the band seems like through the years it just got stronger and louder.
Because we lost our hearing, yeah. Then we waited more. So.
Was there anything, for any member of the band, anything that through the years, talking about the perception of the band, because of the multimedia stuff or the things on stage, did you ever find that sometimes people weren't ready to take the band as seriously as you hoped?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
we thought we were doing something totally different when we started Divo than what ended up happening anyhow.
But it was absolutely true. We were at odds with the prevailing culture, for real. You just can't even imagine what it was like to be us and to face what we were facing. We really felt like aliens. And when we even signed a contract, even at that point, it wasn't really that much of a kind of welcome mat. We would go to radio stations and they were run by guys that all looked like Rob Reiner and all in the Family, and they had, you know, satin ball jackets that the record companies had given them, and in the pockets were the coat that the record companies had given them. Okay, that's cool now. And they hated Devo. We walk in and they had to interact with us because, you know, it's part of the label's design for marketing. And they just wanted out of there as fast as they could. It was odd.
What about the covers that you guys did through the years? I mean, obviously Satisfaction was a major moment, but some of the other ones, how did you pick them? And what was it that you hoped to interpret through them?
We saw our covers as kind of a portal for people who couldn't figure out what the hell we were doing. It would give them a way to because they would know the originals, of course, and then they'd see our reinterpretation, our updating of them, the corrections. It would give clues to people who were just going, I don't know what I just saw on Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, it did help, because there were no words yet like even performance art or deconstruction or postmodern, and we certainly didn't intellectually have that in mind. We were doing that. we were doing that in reality. We were being postmodern. We were deconstructing the music. I mean, we called our own publishing company Recombinant Music after Recombinant DNA, because we knew we were taking things apart and reassembling it in a minimalistic, crude way on purpose to try to get to a basis for a kind of new aesthetic that would be, a foundation for all of us to build from.
Thank you.
Dr. Random, thank you. Some of the people that helped early on, some of the supporters, I know Bowie and Neil Young's influence as well, or help. What are some of the other folks that helped out, and talk a little bit about David Bowie? And the
I guess to be Rashomon, we'd have 3 different stories.
Right.
Well, we'll take whichever one's first.
David was charming, and you couldn't help but like David Bowie. But then when it came to actually making anything real happen, it was quite another thing.
He had other stuff going on in his life, so...
Oh, yeah. Lots.
He was interested in producing Divo, but he had a movie to make.
Well, he wanted his name on the record.
Yeah.
More than
There was a bunch of different things like that. It kind of helped, but he showed up in Germany while we were there with Brian Eno and tried to get us sick because I think he had the flu the whole time. And him and Eno bickered over credits for, what was it, Hero or Love? Love. Yeah, they were bickering over credits over Love.
It was very interesting. I mean, it was a crash course in hobnobbing with the rich and famous in the music business. And Bowie was, he was incredible. And he did like giving, anointing us as legitimate. He liked coming on stage and announcing us. He liked doing interviews where, quote, he discovered us. And he felt relieved when he passed us off on,
when we did that album, by the time we got to going to Germany to do the first album, we already knew what we were going to sound like. We already were absolutely, Jerry and I had it in our heads what we wanted Devo to sound like, and I think Brian thought he was going to help us, and he did. He was like a big father or something. He got us into this kind of crazy studio in Germany that did a lot of electronic stuff, and he oversaw everything. But he recorded all these extra parts, all these extra synthesizers, and he sang on a lot of things. It's kind of interesting because when we heard Uncontrollable Urge at the very end, it's the one from the first album, I remember just now hearing a synth that he put in, it was one of the things that slipped by Jerry and I. We do this thing where we get to the point where we're finally doing the final mix of every song, and it's like when you're in a recording studio, usually it's the producer or the engineer sitting in the middle seat, right between stereo speakers, and we'd all be standing in a row there, and we get to the mix that Brian wanted, and he'd have his synth in it or his voice, and just as then we decided, okay, this is the tape, let's record it. Then you start the analog 2-track tape that would be the master. And so they start the machine up, then they start the 24-track, and just as it started, the tape started, we'd all be staring straight ahead, because that's what you do, because there's stereo speakers. Everybody's staring straight ahead, waiting for the music to start. And either Jerry or I, without looking down, we reached down and we pulled the fader back. So we had Brian's voice and I don't have good peripheral vision, but I can see out of the corner of my eyes. I see him going. I look over and watch it happen, and he never said anything. He didn't ever try to push it more than that.
He was too civilized and kind of a passive-aggressive New Age guru. He wasn't the guy in Roxy Music with the feather boa anymore. And he was trying to make us sound more beautiful. He was a little taken aback.
He was in Music for Air Force Space.
Yeah.
He was really great. I mean, he's a genius. And it's, the reason we worked with him probably was because of one synth solo that he did on a song called Additions for You from, I don't know if that's the first Roxy Music album or not, but I remember when we heard it, I got goosebumps and I said, he's playing a synthesizer and he's not using a keyboard. And it's true, he had a joystick. And I was looking for ways to make our synth sounds more liquid, so that made us just pay attention to everything he did after that. But about 15 years ago, when we were transferring the old analog tapes over to digital, and I'm looking at his handwriting for each track, and it's all beautiful and nice and neat, I realized he put tracks down on every song, and almost all of them we didn't use. And I'm thinking, I wonder if we asked him to, if you guys run into him, ask him if he wanted to remix Divo and first album without us in the room. It probably would sound totally different and probably a lot better.
Totally different. And if you do run into him, explain that we are very sorry that we were snickering at his oblique strategy cards. And he didn't understand us because we were so committed to our brutal industrial aesthetic when we got to Germany.
I remember I took the blank one out in the obliques, strategies, and said, like, think of an idea, then do something different. There was one that was blank and had nothing on it. So one morning, the recording studio was at a farmhouse in Neunkirchen, Germany, and it was actually in the pigsty. The farm, we were in the pigsty of the farm, and it was where the recordings was set up. So I took this card, the blank one, and there were rat traps around the room. So I took one and I drew a rat on it. I put it in one of the traps, and I couldn't. After about 2 or 3 hours, I couldn't take it any longer. I went, Brian, look. And he went over and he found this card, and I could tell that ended us ever having a chance of being friends.
And Josh wasn't born yet.
He has a lot of moral freedom.
I was a preschool vet.
Say what?
I was a preschool vet.
Oh, yeah?
What year was that? 77?
I thought you were born in 85. You changed the story.
What's the first year you picked up the drumsticks?
Probably when I was about 8.
When you were 8?
Playing Freedom of Choice.
This is a true story. He learned to drum to Freedom of Choice as his first drum number.
We can reenact the Christmas video that he showed us that cinched him getting the job. It would take 5 minutes and somebody would have to put on PJs.
We were so lucky to find Josh. Alan had gone away. We lost him as a member, and our drumming is as specific as the rest of the parts in our songs. It's not what a usual drummer wants to do. They feel curtailed by our aesthetic, and instead he had it nailed, and he added the power back in that we've been missing. So it brought it back to its original pristine moment that we created the song with Josh.
I have a lot of time on my hands.
Well, time.
You didn't go to school, right?
Yeah.
California, then.
It's either beating the skins or beating the meat.
Questions from the audience.
Yeah.
So you got some questions about it? Hi.
I think the most fascinating thing on YouTube is your 1972 Kent State performance in the talent show.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting to see this evolution from that to what you guys ended up doing. But one of the questions is, you guys had a lot of prog rock instruments. Was your general style influenced at all by prog rock, or was it sort of an anti-prog rock?
This is the prog rock guy right here.
Because
Yeah, Mellotron, man.
There you go. Yeah. You know, in the world of electronics, I was looking for a voice, and I worked my way through B3s and Mellotrons, and finally found Opticons and Minimodes. Minimode was kind of like my AK-47. To this day, you can blindfold me and say, all right, now the synth solo from Mongoloid, with a blindfold on, I can get the settings just right. Or it's smart control.
Sometimes. But Mark did have hair down to his waist, and he had a three-piece band called Flossy Bobbin, where they could play more notes in 30 seconds than Devo does in a whole concert.
Wow.
I like that compliment of producer and director giving a concert film.
What?
Or I really felt like it was there.
Yeah.
It didn't shove it down my throat. It was a concert film. There weren't all these crazy angles, jerky moves.
Yeah, I think that's what Keirda was after, is the antithesis of the cliche cut today that you see, where it's faster and faster, and you don't feel like anything. It's just
It's like your experience.
an assault. Yeah.
And given that there are so many different ways you can arrange a Devo song, you guys have proven that, the Mikado records have proven that. And given that, Alex has proven himself to a certain extent.
Alex, where are you? Where's Alex?
There's all this shit about the Ballard.
Where is he? Stand up, Alex.
So what's all this shit about this being the Devo tour?
There's no Jed the Fish.
Don't ask me.
Wasn't that one happened?
I have a question for Josh Freese. It's a two-part question.
Okay.
First of all, you're one of my favorite drummers in the whole world.
Thank you.
Wait a minute, are you a drummer?
Yeah.
I thought so. I saw the glove,
So you played with like some of the biggest bands ever. Like the list of bands that you played with is like crazy. Where does Divo fall on that list?
Well, I mean, like we were talking about earlier, one of the first albums I ever got was Freedom of Choice in 1980 when I was 8 or 9. And I started practicing that record, and I kind of, as I was growing up, and you go through different phases, especially when you're really young, I can look back and go, God, I can't believe I used to like so-and-so, or I can't believe I used to like this band when I was 12 or 13. But as I got older, I discovered Divo on my own. I didn't have an older brother or sister to hit me with any cool music. And I was hearing Freedom of Choice on the radio, and went out and I asked my parents for the record for Christmas, and I got it, I loved it, and then I went back, and after Freedom of Choice, I realized, oh shit, there's 2 other albums, we were so much more out there than Freedom of Choice, and so this is all about man and dreaming out the future. As I got older, I started to understand it more, what attracted me at first was the catchy songs and kind of the crazy look at the videos, but it started to ring more and more true as I became an adolescent, and I started kind of, the other things I liked when I was younger started falling by the wayside, but Divo, God, this isn't just like, at first I was funny and kind of, and gimmicky, but this is really kind of heavy, and so, as I got older, I kind of appreciated it more and more and more, and I was fortunate to meet Bob Casale when I was 16 going on 17. I just started playing with the Vandals, and we were lucky enough to get a few dollars together and hire Bob too to produce a record for us. And we didn't really care what he did as far as production-wise, because we were hopeless anyways. We just wanted a reason to be able to show up and hang out with Divo every day for a month. And punish him with super random questions. And so, and we did. But, me being the youngest one in the band and the biggest fan, I really latched on to him. And Divo was kind of inactive around that time, I know you didn't ask me how I got involved in Divo, I'm telling you. But, they played ball, and they started doing some gigs together. I think the first thing that Divo did after about a 4 or 5 year hiatus was a remake of Girl You Want, for the Tank Girl soundtrack. And Bob called me to go to Mark Mothersbaugh studio before Devo Hardcore. And we did it up there, and then I think Sundance was the first day of the '96. And it was like one of those, I'm going to the airport. No, not in the airport. I always wanted the house to report what goes wrong with them. I was afraid of crashing. Because I was like, oh my God, I'm going to record with Divo. I just didn't want to fall out. I didn't want to get an ass. I just wanted to make up through the Hopper Hills and get in one piece. So, there you have it. You can answer the question you didn't ask.
Yeah, did you ever see those science films where like an egg hatches next to a random object and then it identifies with it? And the rest of it knows? We lucked out with Josh.
If you'll be so kind to be candid enough to answer this second half of the question. Out of all the bands you played with in the list, what was the least favorite of the band?
That's a long list. There's a tie of about 40 bands. I can't do that.
No,
But Lawrence?
Okay, over here.
Did video influence the progression of the music? The video was, there wasn't, as video became more mainstream, did it influence the music?
Well, we were visual artists, and we had the intent from the beginning of making movies. And there was no such thing as the word music video. And what our idea was, because we believed in laser discs, we've been reading about those. And this was like 1974, and we thought, it's all going to happen. And we'll make one laser disc a year, and we'll be like the Three Stooges, but music-driven shorts.
Right. We were sure by 1976, rock and roll would be over. That it would not make any sense because now art students would take over pop culture.
So a lot of times we had these simultaneous video and audio ideas, one kind of playing on the other, symbiotically back and forth. So, like with Whip It, it didn't start with a whip crack. We needed a whip crack for the video idea.
Wow.
Started off as we saw a cartoon or we saw something happen in life or something in the news, and it ended up being the reason we made a song, so we have an excuse to make the video.
Is Dove, the band of love, ever going to resurface?
Oh, and we need love more than ever now.
But we don't need doves. We're wiping them out.
It could do a special concert for ISIS.
Hey there.
Or for North Korea, we could put his head back together.
Oh.
All right, my question, one piece right there for you. When Divo started, we always say it was all about the art, and you compared it a lot to like the Bauhaus movement. And I'm wondering, has that come to fruition for you guys? Is Divo like as an aesthetic for other artists and musicians? Have you seen it flourish as like a new artistic movement as you guys envision and think?
Have we seen it? What was the word? Have we seen it? What?
Flourish,
Oh.
like a Bauhaus, an artistic movement.
I thought you said have we seen it crush. I thought, yeah, he's close.
Yeah.
Well, like what happens to everything is, if it gets accepted, it gets co-opted and commodified, and then you have to reinvent yourself somehow. What Devo should be doing, should have done too, is a movie, a musical. We could have branched out, but the problem wasn't ideas, it was opportunities.
There was a time when the three of us, I remember back in Akron, there was one night sitting around the table at Jerry and Bob's house they were renting, and we talked about it being a religion instead. We talked about, what if we decided to do the church in Divo instead? And thinking back, I kind of regret that we didn't give it a try. Not too late.
Praise Bob.
Praise thee. No, we were surrounded by all that quack and right-wing, homegrown preacher stuff in Akron, as you can imagine. And Reverend Ernest Ainsley, Miracle Witness Hour, Rex Humbard, Church of Tomorrow, Cathedral of Tomorrow. Sorry. And you are affected by it. We only learned later that they were tax exempt.
Well, back then, nobody had figured out that the world was only 3,000 years old, and it was due to the dinosaurs stamping out all the flames on the hurtling ball of mud that it became Earth. Nobody understood that's really what was happening back then. So there was a lot of chaos and confusion.
But it could work, in all seriousness, because there's, on the one hand, the evolutionists, and on the other hand, the creationists, and Devo is the link, the theory of everything, glues it all together.
Over here.
Hi, I wanted to know how you guys got involved with Dr. Detroit.
Because of Saturday Night Live.
I'm trying.
We'll start with the filmmakers. We saw Pledge Music mentioned up there on the screen. Tell us a little bit about Pledge Music and how this came together.
We actually weren't that involved with Pledge Music. We helped organize and put together the video for that, but Pledge was something that came through MBD and Jerry to help raise money, not for the film, but for I actually don't know the Pledge story.
It's funny, I was told to ask one question, that was it. So
that
I'm
was
just
it.
going to move on.
I don't really know how the Pledge thing came about, because that was through MBD. So
Okay.
we helped with it, but we didn't organize it.
Well, you had made a film with Bob Forrest and Bob and the Monster. How did that inform the choices that you made for this film? How did that experience, if any way, affect this one?
It's interesting because with this film and with a band like Divo, whose history is so rich and interesting and fun, the desire to want to tell that narrative story is really the only thing that kind of came into this, because it's a completely different medium. So I wanted to try and take the concert film and have a little bit of storytelling to add to it without interrupting the flow of the show, which was so great.
And for the band, how you guys doing down there? It's so far away.
Okay.
When you going back to the early material, going back to the earliest material, what was that experience like, and what new things, if any, kind of resonated in that return? Is there anything that you found different in the songs than you had the first time?
You mean by doing them again?
Yeah, sometimes I would think music probably comes back to you in a different way when you go back to some of the early stuff.
I think we touched upon that in the film. It kind of, more than ever, everything just sounds like everything else, and it all sounds like something you've heard before. And critics think that's a great thing. They'll go, this new band is incredible. Sounds just like Exile on Main Street. And that's a compliment.
Is there any particular piece of music or an album that inspired you to do what you guys did?
we'd have to probably say there's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, we love music, but it wasn't just rock bands. I mean, we didn't think, I mean, we thought we were doing something bigger. We were fans of the futurists in Italy that thought that an orchestra wasn't big enough to make the sound of an industrial world, so they were adding foghorns and airplane motors, and we were fans of the Dadaists, and we loved ballet mécanique, and all sorts of things that had nothing, that had a little bit to do with rock and roll,
But also Captain Beefheart.
yeah, that was a common point among us all.
Sure, right here in front.
I'd like to hear more about this piece of art we just saw. I mean, a combination of your talents, great editing, and
Yeah, we're Ballard.
something you guys deserve to see. When you as a band, I'd like to see more. I like to see stuff like New Traditionalists preserved, because there's nothing, but this was beautiful. The editing, the whole thing as a whole came together very nice.
What was the challenge?
I was
for you
there.
guys?
I'm sorry?
What did you circle as the challenge going in, or the best opportunity with this project?
Well, it was kind of a one-night thing. So, Keirda went up to Oakland, and basically it was like, bring everything in, film it for a night, cross your fingers, hope everything's great, bring it home. And it was. The band is phenomenal, and they came back with great footage. So there was a lot to play with, a lot to work with, and some songs more than others, and it was just a really exciting experience. I mean, it's definitely a testament to how absolutely amazing Divo is.
Sure.
That we can make something like this.
Yeah. And working with the band, what were your priorities with this film, with this project?
Well, what attracted us to these people was the fact that they'd never done a music film, and that they'd been working with surgical supply companies and janitorial supply companies. So we thought, well, those are the right people.
Well, it was a no money labor of love, and there's very few out there with any craft and talent that want to get involved in a no money labor of love, and they were nice enough to do that, and talented about doing it, which is just a rare thing. Now, see, if we found anybody from Fathom Events, for instance, there was somebody here tonight from Fathom Events, they might say, you're right, we want this film in 1,600 theaters, because that's what they do. But how do we get to Fathom Events?
How much of an influence did the Kent State shootings have on Divo as a band and as artists?
Probably the most to Josh, yeah. I mean, I was in the middle of it, I was there, so it changed me from...
Right, Jerry had his rifle, and the other guy all went down on one knee, he went down there.
I was just, maybe a live and let live hippie until then a little bit, and then I didn't almost cut my hair after that. I not only cut my hair, but I changed the way I saw the world. I mean, when you see people shot with M1 bullets and see what it really does, and they're, from you to me away from each other, you change.
Is that part of what drove you guys to want to change the world or want to change music, change what became Divo Hardcore?
It made us want to talk about our perception of the world was.
Yeah, I mean, it was a traumatic event. And you had a little bit of cultural PSTD or whatever it is. You really did, because you're going, everything I've been told is a big fucking lie. And now you're watching people rewrite history, and the students were reviled, and the guard was cheered, and those who had control of the media presented completely distorted and even absolutely false reports. And you watch it take hold. You watch history being mutated. And the perpetrators got away with it. And now that I'm a senior citizen, I can say I've seen this same dynamic played out over and over and over and over, where, you know, what happens when you speak truth to power, you get squashed, and the perpetrators get away with murder.
I have two questions. My first question is, when the Whip It video came out, and there was all the pressure from women's groups, how bad was the pressure on the band? And my second question is to Bob. Has him and Brent Armisen ever been in the same room together?
At the Wilturns, were that?
Yes, I met him at the Wilturn. And I walked up and he said, "You look just like me." And I said, No, I don't." He goes, "Yes, you do."
It wasn't that bad. There, you know, I mean, we didn't have a world stage like Katy Perry does. So I think the worst pressure came from what was the comic?
I know who you mean. Oh, that did the.
What's her name?
Be on her show.
Lily Tomlin.
Yeah, Lily Tomlin.
We were scheduled to be on her show, and we got kicked right off that show. She saw the video, so that was it.
Boo-hoo.
Yeah, I saw what happened to her.
How'd you guys end up in the movie Heavy Metal as an animated group? Did you guys have any say in that?
Okay, you're next.
The animators loved Devo, and they wanted to just put us in this film. We thought, oh, interesting. You know, we would be this band in outer space. We thought, okay, I like that idea. And we thought, well, let's put a song. And at the time, we had a song that we'd written, rearranged called Working in a Coal Mine.
Yeah.
And you know, our record company at that point had decided they were going to be helpful, and they said, "Oh, don't put that song on." So we gave it to Heavy Metal, the movie, and they used it in the outer space scene. And so we thought we were going to get a free ride on an album called Heavy Metal, that all these heavy metal bands who were selling lots of records were going to let us ride along with the platinum. And the ironic joke was that Working in a Coal Mine was the one that went in the top 10. So we gave all these lame songs that these people didn't know what to do with, and just gave to this movie a free ride.
The band in the audience, yes.
How did you get involved with Jermaine Jackson, and was that a stepping stone?
Case of where they came to us. Jermaine wanted Mark and I to sing backup vocals on this song that he was going to release as a single. We thought we heard something wrong. We couldn't believe it was true.
Well, we were pretty insular too. We didn't trust anybody, so we rarely accepted any of these offers, but decided we'd go ahead and sing on this song. And when you know it was a hit, it was for they had something back then called Black Radio, which was separate from the top 40, and it was #1 on Black Radio.
And what he wanted us to sing was, "Let me tickle your fancy, let me excite your soul." So, of course, 10 minutes into the takes, we were doing take after take after take, Mark and I just started singing, "Let me tickle your fancy, let me excite your hole." And the engineer and him paid no attention. They were just dancing around. Never paid any attention. It actually went down that way.
It's kind of funny because it's the only song. I was walking around on Union Square in like somewhere in 1980 or whatever year it was, 81 or 82, whenever we did it, and after a Devo show. And it's the only time I ever heard Devo music coming out of a strip club. I mean, not Devo music, but something that we sang on. Chippendales. Probably Chippendales or probably Lion.
Well, there used to be a strip club down by LAX called the Jet Strip. Yeah. And there was a girl down there who did a famous dance to Peekaboo. And, yeah, all the strip club fanatics came and told me about it, and they told me I had to come see her routine. And it was really amazing, because she was a great dancer. And she did a whole peekaboo thing while she stripped, and she had, Devo 3D glasses on, and yeah, she did.
That's 2 points for peekaboo, okay.
And the red hat, she used the energy.
Not any of our songs ever.
Okay.
For the song Baby Doll movie Tapeheads, did you have to learn Swedish?
What about Tapeheads?
The song Baby Doll.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds like parts are in Swedish. Did you have to learn that?
It is, yeah, if what you're saying is, it sounds like pieces of Baby Doll are in Tapeheads. Swedish, yeah, that's right.
Swedish.
Yes.
Well, it's phonetic Swedish, because we sang it.
Yeah, they gave us.
So we didn't know exactly what we were singing, but
right.
Some sort of, I don't know if someone who speaks Swedish would understand the lyrics, or would want to take credit for that being Swedish, but that was our attempt.
What's the origin of Josh 2? Like, how did you guys discover him?
He discovered us. He's the brother of Paul David Hagar, who's our front of house man and a sound engineer that did this. And we needed somebody fast, and Josh knew everything, knew every song. And similar to Josh Freese, had on his own, previous to us meeting him, had pretty much been an aficionado of Devo material.
Hi, yeah. I just remembered maybe 10 years ago, I'm 20, so I was like 10 years old, watching some children's channel, and my dad introduced me to Divo when I was a kid, before it made sense to me. So I'd already listened to the music, and I remember hearing kids coming onto, I think the Disney Channel, and then they're like, "We are Devo 2.0," and I was like, "What the hell is this?" What was your involvement with that?
That's another thing, just like these other questions about how did you get involved with Jermaine Jackson? It was like the Disney record label came to us and said, "We'd like you to think of something to do with Devo songs that we can market to like 4-year-olds. So I said, "Why don't we start a kids band and they'll do our songs?" And they went, "Great," and they kind of didn't pay any attention for 3-4 months while we rehearsed this band. We did casting, rehearsal, recording, and then some suits at the top wanted to hear the finished product, and they actually had the lyrics transcribed. And the lyrics were the lyrics to the songs that the label executive had picked for us to do. Like, I want these Devo songs. And suddenly there was this 11th hour freak out. Like, you, look at this. Life's a bee without a buzz. It's going great till you get stung. We know what you're talking about. That means that life's a bitch unless you're getting high, and you're getting away with it until the cops bust you. You gotta take that whole verse out of it. So we got kind of a modern, reinterpretation of our own lyrics that were at that point more than 20 years old, and told what they meant, which, of course, that isn't what they meant. And the best one was Uncontrolled Urge. We wanted the whole song off the record. And that's one of the best songs, that Devo has. And we go, "What's wrong with that song?" And they go, "The Uncontrolled Urge, it's not defined." We go, "That's right, it's not defined. So anybody can think of whatever they want." And they go, "Yeah, and they're going to think it's sex."
Disney defense, they do get sued a lot for like odd things. They shouldn't use it.
So I go, what would you have us do then? And they go, "If you can rewrite the lyrics so it's defined what the uncontrollable urge is, then it's okay." So we made it about junk food. Before dinner, after lunch, I get a snack attack and I've got a lunch. And it went great. That's Devo.
You know, kind of definitely fit into our ideas that subversion was really a way to make any change anyhow. So the kid heard that, and then they heard the real version, and went, wait a minute, what got changed? They all was able to be important to them for the first time.
Suddenly hungry. Hey.
Did doing the old songs on the tour, sort of heavy guitar-based songs, and revisiting the past like that, did it make you want to make any new music in that style again?
Oh, of course. And then it goes away after.
No, definitely once you know, makes you want to go back and start with minimalistic, stripped down parts that everybody actually plays, where sequencers and drum machines are running the show.
And dare we hope for any new music?
Oh, yeah.
I don't see why not. I don't think we need to put out a record. It could just be, and we don't need a label, that's for sure.
Right on, please.
We're going to take one more question. Who's got a good one? Right there. Hey.
Hi, guys. I'm a fan from way back, and I want to know, how did you choose Chi-Chi Rodriguez as the album cover?
Chi-Chi Rodriguez.
How did you choose Chi-Chi Rodriguez?
I've been in bands for 52 years, so say that a little louder.
How did you choose Chi-Chi Rodriguez for that album cover?
Oh, Chi-Chi. We just thought it was, there was a product at the time at Kmart where you get 3 golf balls and 3 tees, and it came in a, not even a vacuum pack, just a sealed plastic bag with with cardboard graphics at the top, and there in the center of the graphic was Chi-Chi's head over a golf ball.
Just the same way that astronauts and cosmonauts were in front of the moon doing the same pose. And we just thought it was a brilliant idea.
It looked so artificial and so funny, you know, it just made us laugh. So it was found art, and we were big proponents of found art. And of course, that's another great story because we put out a self-produced single, Be Stiff, and used that found art. Nothing happened. No copyright infringement cases, no lawsuits. And we get all the way to the point where we have to now turn in the artwork for the first Warner Brothers record, and legal comes back. And it's David Berman is the manager of business affairs and an avid golfer and a big fan of Chi-Chi Rodriguez. And he goes, "You can't use Chi-Chi Rodriguez like that. I'm not going to let you do that. You'll get sued. You got to make changes." And we go, "What kind of changes?" And he goes, "I'll send you some." So he told the art department what to do to make it not Chi-Chi Rodriguez. And it was like, remove the striations that make it a golf ball, so it's just a white disc. Remove the hat band, because that's signature Chi-Chi.
Yeah, a piece of fabric was his.
That was signature Chi-Chi.
Golfers knew that was Chi-Chi.
And then the best was David himself took ruby red film and cut a censorship bar to block his eyes, because those were Chi-Chi's Pan-American eyes.
That, we should use that for something. That was pretty good.
It was.
Except it wasn't what we were doing, so we were totally freaked out by that.
So, you know, my idea was to ask Chi-Chi, and everybody was afraid to do that, but we did it anyway through our manager, Elliot Roberts. So we sent him the original cover and said, "Hey, Chi-Chi, would it be all right if we used this?" In the meantime, Mark and I had to supply Warner's with...
I had something from
the newspaper.
National Enquirer that said, "Name the 5 presidents that this is a composite photo of." So it had like Lyndon Johnson's big ears and Nixon's nose and somebody else's, like Kennedy's hairdo and Truman and these different, it was a hideous face. And we just cut a bar out that was the size going from one ear to the other ear so that the eyes and part of the nose were included in that. And we had that airbrushed in. So then all of a sudden he wasn't the beautiful Pan-American Chi-Chi anymore. Because Chi-Chi was really handsome guy. There was.
So we had this horrible mutated version of Chi-Chi that they went to print with. Meanwhile, Chi-Chi gets back to us and says it's okay, and he wants 50 albums for himself to hand out at Christmas time. So Warner Simpson released one. He goes, hey, that doesn't even look like me.
It sent us 5 promo photos of like him posing with a, saying, if you do any more albums, if you need more pictures of me,
That was just beautiful. Ladies and gentlemen, Devo.
Here, that was Rick.
Very cool.